Day 2. We're gonna be learning more. What the heck is this thing? Oh, that's the alert box. Oh, okay.
Last week. The author tried in vain to turn the console off, even unplugged it from the wall, but nothing seemed to work. The screen still showed his family, and it seemed his only option was to enter the new level. A recent photo they had taken last weekend.
Oh yeah, this is the Mario 64.
Mission name
Basically, got a haunted Mario 64 thing. I'm gonna put up my mic so I can eat.
He had to run from a giant blob that chased Mario. He kept running, always staying just slightly ahead of it. That couldn't last forever, so Mario was eventually absorbed by the blob. The picture ejected Mario and he lost one of his 3 lives. The picture had changed somehow. The author and his family looked like they were starting to decay, like they had all died and been posed as corpses. The author shrugged this off and jumped back in. Again, Mario died and he was sent back out of the picture. The picture had gotten worse. Everyone was looking like they'd been dead for a longer time now. One last time, the author thought as he jumped back into the picture. This time Mario was on a lonely island surrounded by nothing but water. A sign told him to dive and he jumped into the water and began to dive down. The waters were empty as he made his way down. It was quiet until out of nowhere Mario was eaten by the giant eel from the game. And just like that, he was out of extra lives. The game showed a grotesque picture of the family in the last photo the author had taken. He was so disgusted, but glad that he could actually shut the system down. When he tried to reload the game, all he got was the same picture and no option to do anything else. The author decided to open the only other file in the game. The grotesque picture.
Why didn't you just unplug the game or turn the power off in the house?
They were posed differently, and that was when he realized that it was a different family.
Hell Valley Skytrees.
How far are you willing to go to uncover the truth? Would you endanger yourself for your own curiosity?
No.
It would seem the author would. The author considered himself a fan of all things creepy in video games. One day, the author decided to find the secrets of the Hell Valley Skytrees from Super Mario Galaxy 2. The author had heard of a theory that the ghosts from Super Mario 3D World and the trees were linked, so he began his own research by playing through Super Mario Galaxy 2. He eventually came upon the Shiverburn Galaxy, where the Hell Valley Skytrees were located. Entering first-person mode to see them, they weren't there, and confused, the author left first-person view to find that they had surrounded Mario and proceeded to grab him. The screen went black, and all he could hear was Mario's horrifying screams.
Wow!
And the words, "Seek no further, thou foolish man," were spoken by an unknown voice. The author ignored the warning, began digging for more information on the trees, going to forums and even contacting Nintendo, but he found nothing. That night he had a nightmare of the shadowy figures surrounding him. Shooting up from his bed, clearly shook, the author stumbled into the living room. Booting up his Wii, he loaded up Super Mario Galaxy 2. Instead of being greeted by the menu, he was met with the face of his Mii, with no eyes and a frown. When he selected this file, he was spawned in the Shiverburn Galaxy, where the trees usually were, looking down on Mario, who was staring up. Then, the screen flashed, and he was staring at the trees, standing around a dead Mario, before telling the author that he must pay for digging too deep. Then, the power went off in his house. It ends with the author warning people not to look into the trees. Well, where it ends for him.
Dang, I'll look into the trees.
On October 16th,
Anyway.
a homicide report states that this was found in the victim's pocket. It would seem the author's curiosity led to his death.
I have a copy of Mario Galaxy laying in my room.
In the exact same spot.
I'll look into the trees if I want to.
And how they will send over this information to their cousin, who
Ah!
is creepypastas. Let's hope his curiosity doesn't get the better of him.
The princess. And the peach.
The
Oh.
Princess is the story about a strange entity known as the Princess. This entity has the ability to appear in any video game that they please and interact with the player. The player is advised that if they ever see her, they need to turn off the game. The Princess can travel into any game she wishes. Once inside, she'll begin to change the game in different ways. Usually the things she'll change are pretty easy to recognize.
Alright,
They
if it
also
doesn't
corrupt
pull
the
up
game
a
in
picture of her.
unforeseeable ways. The Princess may enter any video game she wants, and anyone can see her. Though she usually avoids online games and the newer stuff. She prefers older titles and N64 games, with an apparent fondness for Ocarina of Time. The story of the Princess starts with the author talking about an untextured and weird-looking NPC that he found in The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. She had red hair and wore a white dress. Both of these would become staples of her character. The most striking thing about her, though, wasn't really something she had, but rather what she didn't. The Princess was faceless.
Dang.
When the author tried to interact with her, he was knocked back like Link had hit an enemy. This led the author to believe that she was an enemy of something. She persisted in that same spot until he left the area. When he returned, she was gone. The author would run into her a few more times while playing through the game. The very last time he would run into her, he finally got some dialogue out of her. She said, "He's not moving anymore." What? Are you sad? Happy? I mean, looks like you're coming around. That's an unpleasant mask. Along with the dialogue box was a high-pitched screeching sound. The princess's character model was also shaking in place. The author immediately left the area. Following this event, the game was becoming less and less stable. Finally, the author would make his way to the marketplace where all the NPCs were acting strange. After talking to all the NPCs, the screen would flash and show the princess entity along with the re-dead screen. The author finally reached over and shut off the console. He would then put away Ocarina of Time for a while. When he did get around to playing it again, the game seemed normal. This was one of the stories that revolved around the princess, the entity that haunted a moment
Had to do more research.
due to video games.
I search up more. Let's see what we got. I want to get an N64 cartridge and like just mess with it so much and then sell it at like a yard sale or something so someone could create a creepypasta of it or something. Oh, here's a video. Come on. Dang it. Forget it.
The story goes into length explaining her backstory and what she's capable of, and also introduces the Princess Society. But I'm going to hold off here as she really deserves a full video.
Yeah,
So remember, friends, if you see her, turn off the game.
Alright. Same goes as the floating Wario head attract mode.
Attract mode tells the story of a kid whose friend named Nicholas goes missing while they're at the arcade. They're both playing a game called Skull and Crossbow. The game was very alluring to the author.
Well, it's like
the
the Elder Scrolls game.
The author starts the game and finds that he's actually kind of good at it. The game was essentially just like Centipede, another arcade game that he was already familiar with, though it was much darker in nature. The author was getting very into the game, and he was slowly beating the final boss. Just as this happened, Nicholas came up and pushed him out of the way so he could play the game too. He essentially stole the finale of the game from the author. Nicholas ended up losing and started reaching behind the machine to unplug it. His logic was that if you unplug the arcade, you can claim a free game from the arcade owners. The author didn't love the plan but was on board since he really wanted to finish the game. As the boys tried to jostle the machine away from the wall, they were shocked to find that the game had no back. It was just a black void that Nicholas started to fall into. The author tried to grab him, but it was too late. He was gone. When the author looked back at the front of the screen, he swore the main boss of the game, Oad, had another set of ribs on him. The track has 2 more sequels that expand upon that author character's slow descent into becoming a sociopath.
Hold up. Ah. Ah.
I'll probably do a full video on this series as there's a lot of subject matter I want to cover.
Abandoned servers.
You know that eerie feeling you get when playing a multiplayer game alone on a server meant for multiplayer? Like you are meant to be surrounded by people, but it's just you and you alone. That's the hobby of the author of Abandoned Servers. He would explore those servers that players didn't use anymore. He even got paid to do it. The author receives a call from his friend asking him to check out an indie game's abandoned server. He was told the server was pretty big and offered him $100 to go through and document what he found. The author created an account which was hosted on some very old website. He logged in and noticed the game was very similar to Second Life, a game where you play as yourself and build by a second online life.
Oh my god, man.
The server that the author was in turned out to be the only active server left in the game. He was loaded into a forest-like area where the trees looked very similar to the ones from WoW. The first thing that he really noticed was the graphics that looked pretty good, even for a game its age. After walking around in the forest for about 20 minutes, the author came to a big tree. The tree had a giant door on the front of it. The door looked similar to the doors on the trees in The Nightmare Before Christmas. Clicking on the door brought up a loading screen. The game played an 8-bit tune as it took its time loading. When the game finished loading, the only thing inside the tree was a big mirror. The mirror was big enough that it separated one part of the tree from the other. The author's character walks up to the mirror and reaches his hand towards his reflection. After this, the game closes and shoots him back to the desktop. The game was gone from his desktop, and all its related folders disappeared too. Confused, the author shoots his friend a message. He asks if he already cut the servers, and the only reply he got was no. Later that night, he woke several times from dreams about the tree and the mirror. Every time he's about to touch it, he wakes up. The author decides to get up and browse Steam since he couldn't sleep. After looking through some trailers, he received an invite to play Counter-Strike Source. The name was someone on his friends list, but he didn't recognize it. It just sort of resembled his name. The author loaded into the map and couldn't buy any guns for some reason. Every time he tried, it would freeze for a second and then return to normal. He gave up and just proceeded with his starting gun. The map was empty save for him and the person who invited him. The author ran around the map for a while but never saw the enemy player. He was about ready to quit when he saw the other player out of the corner of his eye. The author chased him under a bridge but couldn't catch him. When he emerged on the other side of the tunnel, he found himself back inside the tree. Someone was reflecting in the mirror. It was him. Not his character in the game, but him at his desk wearing his headphones and everything. The reflection of the author starts to rip into its arm with its nails.
Spooky.
The marks began to appear on the author's arm along with the pain. He screamed before shutting the computer off. As the screen faded to black, the doppelganger's face began to rot and distort. 4 days later, the author gathers the strength needed to turn his computer back on. He attempts to open Word, but it shuts down and starts to load Battlefield 3. An old friend has invited him, but he was suspicious. The author joined his group and tried to talk to his friend, but only got static in return. He attempted to shut the computer off, but as he looked back at the monitor, he saw all of the trees in the game now had the same door on them.
Enter the
Jabbing
tree
the button
doors.
with his thumb, he came to realize he couldn't turn it off as he looked back at his monitor. He saw a familiar face looking back at him. It was his doppelganger again. His face was shriveled to where bone was visible, his eyes were sunken in, and he overall looked like death. The author's doppelganger began to jab a piece of wood into himself repeatedly. Wounds started to appear on the author, and he let out a scream as he pulls the plug from the computer. His doppelganger screams as the computer shuts off. The author calls an ambulance as he has some serious injuries. He was rushed to the hospital and overall required stitches for his wounds. As he's healing, he decides to sell his computer. The author's life starts a downhill trend. He loses his job for missing
There's
too many
5
days.
minutes left on
He
the
stopped thinking
timer.
about the doppelganger in the tree. He continued to haunt his dreams. He has spent too many nights without proper sleep, and it was driving him insane. The author finally came up with the
Okay,
idea-
seriously. Honestly, if I happen to go... If someone invites me to a game late at night, when I happen to be on my computer, like, I don't know, browsing through Steam, looking what games to buy, looking for stuff on the channel, I'm not accepting that invite. If I don't know who you are, or if you don't call my phone or text me that you want to play a game, I ain't accepted the invite.
He had to rid himself of his nightmare. He buys a cheap Dell computer and sets it up at his home. After 3 days of working, he finally gains access to the same server where his doppelganger resides and sets up a peer-to-peer connection. Once the author was online, he was greeted by a very different page of the game. It had news of him losing his job, as well as people being killed, cannibalism, and other heinous acts being shown. The author makes his way through the game, which is now covered in the corpses of people. He must make his way past all of them and get to the tree. It was his only chance to overcome this nightmare. Once inside the tree, he finds a very deformed and menacing looking version of himself. The deformed, bloody creature begins to crawl towards him. The doppelganger breaks through the glass, and just as he was about to reach the author, he pulled out a pocket mirror. His doppelganger lets out a cry as a massive burst sound comes from the game. The author woke up on the floor, covered in blood, with the mirror laying beside him. It must be over, he thought.
Can you
The
get...
author drove over to a bridge and threw the mirror into the waters below, hoping to finally be rid of the nightmare. He warns that you should be careful when exploring abandoned servers, to be wary of the laughs and cries you may hear, as you may also meet your very own doppelganger.
Oh, is there any games where there's just barely anybody? That ESP.
JVK1166Z.ESP was a strange mod for the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. The mod was only passed around smaller Elder Scrolls message boards and communities. It was even sent to a few people via personal messages. The mod wasn't so widespread, and that was likely due to the fact that if you tried to load the mod on your computer, it would likely crash the game. It would sit on the loading screen for an hour before it crashed, taking all of your save files with it. This led to warnings being distributed into most areas of the community, meaning the game was mostly being treated like a virus that was being spread around the community like a real virus would.
Yeah.
A year later, the author of the story was messaged by someone who got PM'd a copy of the mod. In the PM, he was told that the game could run in DOS bots, which ended up working. The mod was now playable, even if it was laggy and it wouldn't allow you to save unless you used the quick save feature. JVK, as the board started to call it, started the game with every NPC that was important to the plot already being dead, essentially making the game unbeatable from the very start. Kind of like starting the game on a game over. It was noted that even though the NPCs were dead, you could still go and find their corpses, as they were never to spawn. Another important change was that your character would lose health as you played the game. I don't mean from receiving damage, but just as time passed. It was a little bit at a time, but more so if you played the game too slow. If you actually ran out of health, your character, like in most games, would die. When your character died, you'd see what the cause was. A figure would crawl all over the character's dead body just before the game asked if you wanted to load a save. This figure would become known in the community as the assassin.
What the?
He could mainly be seen after your character has died, or on very rare occasions, he could be seen just out of the corner of your eye. He would be gone before you could turn to look at him. The assassin crawled like a spider on all four limbs and was very fast. He would crawl out of sight every time you thought you could catch a glimpse of him. He was even able to crawl up walls and trees, making the game a little hard to play at night. The only other noticeable difference was that at night, all of the NPCs would walk outside at random intervals and just stare upwards. If you try to talk to them, all they will say is, "Watch the sky." They will randomly stop and go back to normal after a short time. A new NPC
So you would have to
created
constantly heal throughout this whole game.
robe, which seemed to be a unique item. It was rendered with twinkling stars all across it, looking like a torn chunk of the night sky. Tears had one
What the
quest line and
is that walk?
The new dungeon added in the mod, the Citadel. The dungeon was by far the largest in the game and the hardest as well. It required you to make your way toward an island where the dungeon was located. The Citadel was considered harder due to the lack of proper save feature. At this point, the author quit the mod. The author then recounts the stories of what they were told by the others who continued onward. The Citadel contained areas that looked like Dwemer ruins, but darker. The rooms were black instead of bronze, and that included the creatures in the area as well. The sounds of machinery could be heard all around the player, and it grew louder the further in you went. There was even a thick fog which limited the player's vision to about 10 in-game feet. If you made it through all of that, you'd end up in an area the community has come to know as the Portrait Room. The Portrait Room was a room that pulled random pictures from your My Pictures folder on your computer.
What the?
The room was filled with whatever picture files you had, which led to some very interesting situations. At the end of the hallway, past the Portrait Room, was a door. The door was locked, and none of the players could figure out how to get it open. Everyone returned to Curious to figure it out.
Why don't
All
you
it
just
said
no
was,
clip through
"Watch
it?
the sky." One player, a friend of the author, decided that it had something to do with the night sky. He figured that "Watch the Sky" was in reference to the way the sky now looked like a real sky. His friend had figured out that the sky seemed to correlate to real time that just moved at a faster pace. His friend had to keep the game on though, because if you restarted for any reason, then it would reset the time back to the starting date. The game had to be on, but he couldn't let it sit still for too long or the assassin would kill his character and he'd have to start over again. His friend decided that he needed to keep the game running for 3 in-game years, which was the equivalent of 3 real-life days. After a little bit of time goes by, his friend finds that the assassin has a new method of scaring the player. He now shrieks at them. The first time it happened, his friend wasn't paying attention and nearly scared the life out of him. He persisted still until he got to day 3 and the assassin shrieked at him again. His friend looked around and saw that all the NPCs were outside now. The only thing they would say was "Watch the sky." After that, his friend took some time away from the game. When he did get back in contact with the author, he talked about having suffered from sleep deprivation. His friend was once again trying to figure out the mod. His friend woke up from several nightmares. His first nightmare had the assassin looming over him in the real world. When he tried to push him away, his hands melted into him. After that, he woke to his character not being near where he had left him. Instead, he was talking to an NPC, and he was telling him about how the door would open soon. His friend then awoke for a final time, actually being awake this time. He found his character swimming towards the Citadel Island. He heard this tapping noise on the window to the left of him, which was strange.
Nah, they can't. With headphones in.
Strange. His laptop was on the table to the right of him. This was the last message that the author would receive from his friend. He has since considered re-downloading the mod and running through it again.
That mod, the gray man, but that mod actually sound. If it's a real mod, but that mod actually sounds interesting to play. As long as it doesn't kill me, but it sounds interesting to play.
The author's best friend, Mike, had a Let's Play channel, where he played obscure games. It wasn't a big channel, but he seemed to enjoy it. One day, Mike started to play a game called LSD Dream Simulator.
That's what we're playing. We got Misfortune, the theater. LSD Dream Simulator. Wait, is this the game? We might. Well, I'll try to figure out how to play it.
In this game, the player will explore various Japanese environments, with animals and people floating by who paid no heed to the player. Except for an NPC known as the Gray Man, who, as he sounds, is the Gray Man in the hat and coat. Each time he appeared, Mike would laugh nervously before moving on. After getting to day 12, Mike made a post on his YouTube channel about dreaming about the Gray Man, and how it was time to play a different game. The next day at school, Mike seemed anxious, so the author suggested he take a break from YouTube and study with him. That night, when the author arrived at Mike's house, he seemed distracted and shaken. Eventually, Mike opened up about the dream he had, about drowning for weeks while the Gray Man watched. Over the next couple weeks, Mike's health appeared to start deteriorating, and the dream seemed to have gotten worse. Eventually, Mike was switched to private learning after too many outbursts. As time passed, the author moved on and made new friends. It was around this time that a new graffiti appeared, tagging walls with Japanese words and phrases. One night, while coming home, the author saw Mike in an alleyway under a half-completed graffiti pad. The dreams had gotten even worse for Mike, not even being able to escape them when he was awake. The author woke up in the middle of the night to Mike standing in the corner of his room. Mike told him to delete everything that linked him to the Gray Man, which she did, except for the actual game. The author decided to play the game to see if there was anything wrong with it. Continuing from Mike's file, he noted strangely that the Gray Man had disappeared. That night, the author had a dream, not about the Gray Man though, but of his friend Mike. Mike disappeared.
Yeah, we're definitely playing this game.
And the author even started his own file in the game, where he encountered the Gray Man, but nothing happened. A few weeks later, the police found Mike's body, with forensics determining that he had bludgeoned himself to death with a rock. The author still dreams about him sometimes.
Oh, shoot. Still playing the game, though. Happiness for sale. How much for to buy happiness, though?
Do you remember the Happy Mask salesman from both Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask? Happiness for Sale is a story that tells of an encounter that a young boy had with the salesman when he first moved to his town. The boy encountered him one day as he was walking through town. He noticed the large sack on his back, the thin frame of the man, and his thinning red hair. The most striking part of his appearance, though, was his almost inhumanly big smile. The man's smile extended from ear to ear, and that creeped the boy out. Even if he was put off by the man's demeanor, he still wanted to know more about him. The man approached him, and he was paralyzed with fear. A long moment passed before the man would turn and leave, and as he did, the boy noticed his large sack had masks all along it. The boy spent the night not being able to sleep. All he could think about was his encounter with the man with the mask. Every time he would close his eyes, all he would see was that man's
You met
smile.
a terrible fate,
No,
haven't you?
He wasn't a man. He was a demon in the skin of a man. The next day, the boy decided he needed to confront the man and find out what he really was. After eating breakfast, he ran to the square where he first encountered the man and found that the empty building in town now had a crowd around it. At the center of the crowd is where he stood, the man with the smile that sent shivers down the boy's spine. The happy mask salesman stood next to a sign and spoke of his new shop. The sign next to the demon said, "Happy Mask Shop. Happiness is just a mask away." The boy shuddered, but decided his curiosity must be sated. He went into the shop once the majority of the group had gone. Inside, he found the mask salesman giving his mask to two different people, a woman and a child. Both of them had glossy looks in their eyes, but took the mask before walking out of the shop. It was just the happy mask salesman and the boy now. He stood and asked him a question, but got no response. The man stood like he was waiting for something else to be said. A few moments later, another child walked into the shop. He walked right up to the happy mask salesman and put his hands out like he was waiting for a mask. The man looked down at the boy and then began to glare. There was a moment of fear from the boy before the happy mask salesman grabbed him by the throat. He lifted the boy into the air and then opened his mouth. A crackling sound could be heard as his jaws unhinged and his mouth grew wide enough to swallow the boy. The happy mask salesman began to put the boy in his mouth.
What?
The boy began kicking and screaming, but to no avail. The boy was entirely inside the mask salesman's mouth now. The man brought his hands to his mouth and started to form the flesh of the child.
What
A
the?
moment later, he had turned the child into a mask.
Ah,
He pulled the mask from his mouth and outstretched his hand to the
Also,
boy, who was now
there's also a Mario mask on the back
cowering
too.
in the corner. "Do you want a mask, my boy?" The boy was in tears, but he managed enough strength to run from the building. He ran and didn't stop until he got home. There he sat in his room crying
See,
and rocking
Mario.
back and forth. The boy the next day went out into town and saw that the shop was now closed, like it had never existed in the first place. He then proceeds to warn everyone of this demon and to avoid him if you ever see him. The happy mask salesman has been a popular recurring character in a lot of creepypastas. It's easy to see why when you can see how terrifying he can be.
He's
especially
just
in games.
terrifying in the regular game. Dying happy.
Two friends are talking about getting games for their 3DSs. The author asks his friend Owen if he picked up the new Smash game yet. He replies no, that he got Tamagotchi Life instead. He was a little upset with Owen, as he wanted them to play games together, but got over it as he saw how fun the game looked and figured Smash would still be a fun game by himself. Later, Owen was telling the author about how the game lets you make funny songs sung by the characters on the island. They let you change the lyrics and they can be whatever you want them to be.
This is
Owen was worried about one thing, though. When he started the game, instead of making his me the main character, the game already had someone as the main character. There was a me named Mr. Happy already on the island. Mr. Happy had his own song, one that Owen didn't make for him either. It was a morbid song about how everyone should die happy. The lyrics made them both laugh, even if it was a bit uncomfortable. A few days later, the author got a phone call from Jenny, Owen's wife. She was crying into the phone and he wasn't sure what was wrong. She told him how Owen had jumped off the bridge.
Come on! Be right back, guys.
He was shocked. His best friend was dead. Not only that, but he was at the best time of his life. He had beaten the drugs, the alcohol addiction, and came out a stronger person. To hear that, even in the happiest moments of his life, that he was now gone, it broke him.
What?
A strange email appeared in the author's inbox. It was from Owen, but that wouldn't be possible. The email included a video file. Playing it, he saw Mr. Happy dancing and singing his song, the one that Owen had told him about. The lyrics, which were funny when they first heard them together, now took on a creepy undertone.
What?
It made his whole body freeze up. The song trudged up all of the memories of Owen. Later, when the author was playing his own copy of Tamagotchi Life, a new islander had moved in. It was Mr. Happy, just as he was in Owen's game. Same face, same voice, and same creepy song available to him. Not long after, the author found himself playing the game to find out more about Mr. Happy. Some of his Miis had started to die. When they visited their apartment, all it said is that they had committed suicide. After a while, the author started to see all
Let me check on my Miis real quick.
of his Miis following the same fate, until it was his Mii's turn. He wasn't sad though. He'd already accepted it. There was no reason for him to not die happy.
Hold up. Nah, I'll check on them later. I ain't trying to have Mr. Happy come to my island. Unknown format.
A man sends a letter to his friend Nick. Nick had to move away, but before he did, Nick let him download his entire game library from his computer. The games were all pirated and needed to be cracked before they could be played. Most of the games could be cracked pretty simply, but a few couldn't be broken so easily. After the author searched the internet for a solution for a while, he stumbled across a Japanese program. The program was titled Shikami no Tenjin. The program was perfect for cracking the games and making them playable. The program worked incredibly well, but came with a weird warning. It read, "Files will be unknown format, rename.iso, and mount external. Do not try to run." The author followed this warning, which made the games work fine. He was able to play through a ton of games that he would have missed out on otherwise. He played Skyrim, Civilization, and StarCraft 2. He did wonder, though, what would happen if he ran the files before mounting. The first game he tried to run without mounting was Portal 2. The game started mostly normally until he got to that title screen. Portal 2 looked darker. Shell's body was strewn across the ground with her body crumpled in an unnatural way. After starting the game, the author noted how much darker in tone the game was and how there was a layer of fog covering the ground in every level. This happened in every game he tried to run in this unknown format. Serious Sam HD
I was about to say, this person's gameplay is...
6 had some questionable content added to it. When the author went back and mounted the games as ISO, they ran perfectly again. It would only happen when the games were run in the unknown format. This meant that the program itself was somehow corrupting these games. The author then ran a movie through the program. It ran the movie mostly normally, but eventually the movie started to show darker imagery in the background, mainly of a violent nature. The author deleted the files from his computer.
Dang, imagine running My Little Pony or freaking Powerpuff Girls or something like that, and it just gets dark.
And set out, as he put it, to show the world how truly dark a place it can be. The story ends with Nick getting a letter from his friend and explaining that his friend was found hiding in a bunker. He had committed several acts of violence and was hiding away with stuff to make bombs and poisons.
Yo, what the? The cathedral glitch.
Glitches in video games go together like peanut butter and jelly.
What? In Kingdom
and they
Hearts?
can range from the absurd to the downright creepy. The cathedral is one such glitch, found in Kingdom Hearts. The glitch works something like this. At the beginning of the game, when you're in Sora's dream on the stained glass floor, if you die in the center of Snow White's apple instead of simply restarting before the bell, you will be transported to another cathedral. But instead of the happy music that is generally there, all you will hear is static. The stained glass floors have also changed. The Snow White one that you start on now features a dead Snow White, with blood leaking out of her eyes, ears, and mouth. The evil queen is depicted with her bloody heart in her hands. The rest of the floors appear to have also changed, into warped versions of the original stories, with visuals such as Beast eating Belle, Cinderella being sold into slavery, and the decomposing body of Sleeping Beauty. When you get to actually fighting Heartless, they have changed as well, now standing taller than Sora, featuring claws and have yellow eyes with red irises. They can also only be defeated if the player chose the sword. For this reason, not many people have gotten past this point with the glitch, with most of them having reset the game to play the actual game. But for the dedicated few who sought to see it through to the end, they were greeted with a fight against the giant Sora Heartless. He too has changed. The heart-shaped hole in his chest is gone, and his eyes are now red. I called it a fight, but honestly, it's anything but. As soon as the battle starts, he immediately grabs you, and the black tendrils begin to enter Sora's face, where the screen goes black, and all you can hear is Sora's screams, and weird whispers, with the words "Game Over" flashing on the screen. Players who restarted the game at this point were only greeted with a black screen and whispering. They have also reported hearing whispers when they are alone, along with seeing red eyes in the darkness.
Dang.
The developers of the game have denied the existence of this glitch. writing it off as people with deranged sense of humor making things up. However,
The
there was
developers
one
are right.
designer who only helped in the beginning of the game, who did not appear in the credits of the final game. His name was Akane Toyotani, and as stated earlier, he only worked on the beginning of the game, leaving after a section of the game was done. After he left, he reported seeing creatures following him, creatures with red eyes and yellow eyebrows.
They are probably making that up all the heck.
These reports were ignored by the police as the ravings of a madman. Shortly after, he was found dead in his house. His body looked like it was cut up with sharp nails. His neighbor reported hearing him the night before, screaming about eyes and whispering.
Super Mario 1 to 8. What happened to 3?
Nintendo had a drought in Super Mario platform games. In the years of 1997 to 2005, there wasn't a single new Super Mario platformer released. The sales of the N64 and GameCube were both far behind Sony's PlayStation and its gritty, dark, and realistic games. Nintendo thought that this is where the medium was headed. The thought then became to take Mario, their flagship franchise, in a similar direction. The next Mario game would be darker, grittier, and more realistic. Of course, internal strife in the company with how far to take the concept was a problem early on. The game was available as a demo on the Wii Homebrew channel, but was later removed. The author recounts his time playing the game. Super Mario.
Hold up, guys. I'll be right back. Colin!
It was noticeably darker than any previous Mario game, which was the new direction that Nintendo thought gaming as a whole was headed.
Probably.
It starts off with Princess Peach being taken as usual, but this time the note from Bowser was a little more sinister.
Oh, wait, I heard about
If
this.
Mario were to pursue them, and
Yeah.
that his death would follow. The game was very unfinished. There were no enemies, just platforms that Mario could jump on. Mario's jumping ability was very limited in this game. He could jump from platform to platform, but he seemed to jump just a little lower and didn't make the same sounds as he did so.
Wah.
Finally, the author
You.
spotted a single toad on the
Whoa.
platform.
He probably
talked to
made
him,
sounds like that.
Toad just said that he hated Mario, and that everyone was better off without him. This was so striking, as the Toad seemed to love Mario before. After a while of jumping aimlessly from platform to platform, a city appeared beneath Mario. It looked like an actual city with actual people in it, not something seen in a Mario game before. The buildings looked neglected but realistic all the same. Once Mario was in the city, the author could see all the people looking at him with disgust and anger in their eyes, as if Mario had somehow ruined their lives. They all slowly started to leave the area where Mario stood until they were all gone and the city seemed empty. After some walking around, Mario came upon a lone house. It seemed to be a level, and after entering, the name appeared: the House of Torn Memories. It was a level of sorts. Inside were normal objects you'd find in any house, but also had a broken lamp and old rotting food. There were a set of stairs leading downwards into a basement. The author took Mario in that direction. In the basement was a dilapidated couch with two skeletons of what looked to be children.
Alright, let's take a small break. Let's play the theater. Dun-dun. Okay, so how do I download it? Alright, there it is. Launch the exe. Alright. Alright. Wait. Alright, there we go. Let's start this game. It's called the theater. Oh wait. No. Play. Alright. Okay. Alright. Hey guys, it's Yandere Boy, and welcome to the theater. Now, there's not much about this game. That we just walk and walk and walk until stuff happens, I guess. Where's my mouse? Alright.
Thank you. Please enjoy the movie.
Will do. What movie are we watching?
Thank you. Please enjoy the movie.
Alright, well, what movie are we watching? What happens if I go backwards? Nope, nothing. Okay, nothing. It's supposed to get, like, creepier and creepier.
Thank you. Please enjoy the movie.
Alright, will do. What's that on the floor?
Thank you. Please enjoy the movie.
Alright, I'll enjoy the movie. Fifth time we
Thank
meet.
you.
Alright.
Please
Same
enjoy
line.
the movie.
Thank you. Please enjoy the movie. You gonna say it again? Hold on, I'll say it with you. Thank you. Please enjoy the movie. Thank you. Please enjoy the movie. Is it me or is it getting darker? It's probably just me. Thank you. Please enjoy the movie. You know, currently on the stream we're binge watching some creepypasta stuff. It has some interesting stuff in it.
Thank you. Please enjoy the movie.
The one I'm interested in is the Thank you. Please enjoy the movie. Nothing is even happening. Any way I can run? Nope, we just walk. Thank you. Please enjoy the movie.
Thank you. Please enjoy the movie.
These pictures like this before. I cannot read that. 10th time going to see this movie.
Thank you. Please enjoy the movie. Thank you. Please enjoy the movie.
Ciao. I don't even think I can exit.
Thank you. Please enjoy the movie. Thank you. Please enjoy the movie.
I think I realized what I have to do. I think I have to close it and then open it again. And then weird stuff happens. There was no music last time.
Thank you. Please enjoy the movie. Thank you. Please.
Alright, I'm enjoying the movie.
Thank you. Please enjoy the movie.
Yeah. Thank you. Please enjoy the movie.
Thank you. Please enjoy the movie.
Oh. Thank you. Please enjoy the movie. Let me try to see. Is there even any way to save our load?
Thank you. Please enjoy the movie.
Done. Done. Done.
Thank you. Please
Alright,
enjoy
I'm going to
the
enjoy
movie.
the movie. Said this to me like 20 times already, probably.
Thank you. Please enjoy the movie.
What? Dude. Where are you? Alright. We going to enjoy the movie? Oh. What the f- What the hell was that? That was the swirly faced man.
Thank you. Please enjoy the movie.
Yeah. After you pulled that trick on me, let me tell you something. I'm not gonna enjoy this movie. What do you think about that? Huh? Like you can do anything.
Thank you.
Please enjoy the movie. I'm not gonna enjoy this movie. I will never will. I don't even know this movie's name. I don't even have a ticket.
Thank you. The movie.
I so bad want to punch my computer right now.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Please enjoy
I'm not
the movie.
enjoying this movie now. Bad review on this place.
Thank you. Please enjoy the movie.
That was the most suckiest jump scare ever.
Thank you. Please enjoy the movie.
Why don't you go enjoy some other things in your life?
Thank you. Please enjoy the movie.
What the? Why are you pacing back and forth, man? What? I can't look back. That's a brick wall. That's literally a brick wall. I'm gonna load back into the game. Oh, my friend texted me. I think.
Thank you. Please enjoy the movie.
Alright, I think that was the game. I don't know if there's any more left after that. I don't know if there was any more game left after that. Give me a heart attack, but yeah. First creepypasta game. Done. So what was the next game we're gonna play? I don't know. I was gonna say. Oh yeah. Video unavailable. Download it here. What? Does it not exist? Alright. Wait. I'm switching to things because I don't know what type of ads it will pop up. They're already Shrek. Alright. Misfortune. Just a game. There is a building hidden within the desert. Everyone who has entered the building died in that building because the building was cursed. One day, a boy lost in the desert got lost in the desert so he could walk until he. Oh yeah. Hold up. Let me just. Oh. Hold up, guys. Ah, dang it. Well, we're gonna have to do it. We're gonna have to do it. Hold up, I'm texting someone. Alright. So, let me restart this recording. Hold up, guys. Uh, Alright. So yeah, apparently we're gonna have to play the game like this. Welcome to Misfortune, a haunted game, I guess. It's supposed to be haunted and scary. Like, I exist. I exist with fabric in reality. Do you want to challenge? Yes. Choose the wrong and misfortune will befall on your loved ones. Are you ready to play? Yeah, sure. Why not? It's just a game. The heck was I supposed to do here? Makes no sense. This one. We did it. Let's go upstairs. You made it this far, but things might get what? Yes. They didn't quite make it. Oh, dang. This is easy. It's gonna get tricky. So I'll cut you a deer. And for this... How many people have... Looks like you have been paying attention after all. Oh, I just guessed. What does it say? You're here. I'm trapped. And I'm lonely. So very lonely. Would you join me? No. Wait, was I buried alive? You have done better than I expected. Did I mess up? I am God here. I messed up again! What the... Here, this one. This one? Yeah, of course I messed up. Of course, it's no big problem though. Let's try this one. I am God here. You ain't nothing. I'll defeat your stupid challenge. That's the last thing I do. There we go. I'll choose this one. Nope. So where's the misfortune at? I failed like a bunch of times. What is this one over here? Basically just a guessing game. This one wrong. So it has to be the last one. I said no one has found a ROM of this. This is the ROM. Lucky guess, lucky guess, lucky guess. Nah. So basically, the plot of this is that we got lost in the desert. And we couldn't... And we decided for some reason that it would be a good idea to go into this place, this maze. Do we even win anything if this kid gets out of this maze? I'm gonna say it's the last one. Sorry about that. Down, 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 down. What even are you? Like a bug? A fly? You ain't no demon because you a sucky looking demon. That's probably why they banished you in the first place. Oh my god. Net. I gotta edit those videos later after the stream. But yeah, let's go back to watching these creepypastas.
The couch sat in front of an old and broken TV. Unfortunately, Bowser broke through the floor and stared at Mario. He said that Mario could save the princess if he gave his own.
I'm getting hungry. Be right back, guys.
Own life for hers. Mario nodded and Bowser pierced his chest with his elongated claws. The story ends with Mario walking through a world that seemed like the afterlife. He walked aimlessly until he found a single gravestone. The gravestone had a single word written on it: innocence.
Tohu 11.
A huge Toho fan, the player decided to torrent the game as they were only available in Japan, though oddly enough only one person had torrented the game before him. Opening the game, nothing was out of the ordinary. During the game, the player blasted his way through the first boss, a husky blonde woman. When he started the second level, the text, "Do you understand me now?" appeared. The player ignored it and proceeded through the second level, struggling to beat the second boss, a woman with glowing eyes and a dark
Come on,
hair.
start the game. I want
At
to
the
see what
beginning of
this
the
looks
third
like.
stage, the text, "Are you here to play with me?" appeared, and he again ignored the text. This level was a lot harder, with the boss integrated into the level itself. This boss was a blonde Oni woman. The player lost all of his lives here. After his defeat, the player decided to get an English patch to better understand the game. When he returned to the game, Remy Roo now had a frown on her face, and when he got to the first boss, it said, "Have you come to harm me again?" The boss now sported cuts and bruises across her body. During the fight, she would simply try to run away from the player. Before he began the second level, the text, "I think she deserved it too," appeared, from a person that introduced herself as Sealed Rose. She seemed to wait for a response, but none came from Remy Roo. Defeating the second boss, the player moved to the third stage, and Sealed Rose spoke again. "Why won't you speak to me?" The player figured she wasn't talking to Remy Roo. She was talking to them. Plugging in the headset, he said hello to Rose. Rose again asked why he hadn't responded until now. The player lied to her and told her he was unable to until now. She seemed to pick up on the lie and became hostile. Completing the third level, he continued to level 4. "Don't go just yet" appeared on the screen before he began the level, though it was unclear who said this. The boss to this level was a young girl, who told the players he must leave. The player assumed she was Sealed Rose and began asking questions, but all she said was, "You must leave now, she has suffered enough," before she introduced herself as Satoshi Komuji. Defeating Satoshi, he moved on to level 5, with the text, "Suffer as I did," showing up. This level was a huge departure from the regular Toho maps. The background was a dark red field with patches of fire, and the enemies were ghosts that screamed in pain when they were shot. Getting to the end, he was greeted by the horrifying boss, a cat. Upon defeating the cat, Sealed Rose showed up once again, with the dialogue, "Hurry to me." Then, "You shall receive eternal torture" appeared, before the player was transported to a new level. This level was a violent, fiery landscape with magma flowing over it. Burning bodies were strewn across the area, being shoveled into the fire by half-animal creatures. The boss for this level was a giant raven, who spouted some nonsense about serving a new master. Managing to ink out a victory, the player ignored the end credits. Tired, he decided to go to sleep, except he couldn't get out of his chair. The screen flashed, and the text "Leaving so soon" appeared, before a small white-haired witch appeared, Scarlet Rose. Remy Roo once again had dialogue, meaning the player could talk. He asked, why was she doing this? She responded by telling him she had read the minds of humans, and deemed them selfish beings, who deserved
And
destruction,
banish them to the Shadow
before revealing
Realm.
who she really was. Chayoshi Komuji. The boss battle began, but it had a small twist. The player could feel the pain of his character.
Ow.
The fight wasn't going well, with the boss becoming invulnerable. Before the boss could finish him off, though, he was sucked into a black hole, the message "Supernatural Border" flashing onto the screen. The battle began once again. This time, though, the boss could no longer hurt him. Dispatching of the boss, the player spoke, not really expecting an answer.
The boss can no longer what?
He asked. A sweet voice answered him, a voice that came from him. The one behind the spiriting away. "The border is mine."
Deadplants.exe. What is this? A Plants vs. Zombies? Creepypasta?
Plants vs. Zombies is a pretty simple and family-friendly game. The author, having heard it was a good game, decided he wanted to find a copy. He ends up pirating it and finds a torrent with only one seeder. The download takes a while, but it does eventually finish downloading. When it was
you don't need to torrent it. You can literally download a ROM for it, since it's a 3DS game, and it's literally a...
done, the file for some reason had a different name. Instead of being Plants vs. Zombies.exe for the executable, it was deadplants.exe. The other file seemed normal, so the author went ahead and started the game. The first difference they noted was the change in mood of the game. It seemed darker, like it was modified to be more creepy. The stages were also much harder, even the starting ones. The night levels took on a much darker gloom, Instead of a clear night sky, they were now covered with clouds. These levels were especially hard. The author also mentions at this point that the music, which started in a pitch higher than usual, was slowly
God
losing
dang.
pitch after each level. Eventually, the author got to the roof levels. This is where the biggest changes to the game took place. The level was noticeably dimmer. The plants, when they would die and get replaced, would be replaced by grotesque versions of the usual plants. It became obvious to the author what was going on. The plants were returning as the ones that had been eaten by the zombies. They were mutated, dead plants. The screen grew too dark for the author to play anymore, and he heard the familiar sound of the zombies breaking into the house. A loud scream rang out of his game that lasted for 7 seconds before the game shut off. Anytime the author tries to reopen the game,
That poor
a unreadable error
potato.
message pops up on the screen. The author has vowed never to pirate a game again, as he can't get that scream out of his dreams.
Strangled Red. This creepypasta is great.
If you knew about stories of haunted
Dun,
cartridges,
dun, dun,
at
dun,
games,
dun, dun,
would you
dun,
play
dun,
a
dun,
mysterious version of a game you found in the trash? The author would,
Yeah.
as we see in this story.
I would. That's a free game.
The author would, as we see when he opens the game, finds the menu changed to String Red, and continues to play the game. The author finds when he tries to continue from the last save file, the game doesn't let him. All he gets is a voice saying no. So he starts a new game. But unlike in the normal Red version, his character's name has already been chosen, Steven. The rival, who's also his brother's name, is Mike. And finally, he had a level 5 Charmander named Mickey. The story had also been changed. He is no longer Red, but a separate character with relationships to the people of Pallet Town. Setting out on his journey, the author quickly finds that his Charmander, Mickey, is far stronger than a normal Charmander. It isn't affected by its usual weaknesses. It did more damage, and even evolves into a Charizard at level 25. When the author arrives at Lavender Town, he notices that Team Rocket isn't there, and Steven refuses to go to the Pokemon Tower, saying he has no reason to be there. Progressing through the rest of the game with ease, the author gets to the champion fight with his brother, and defeats him. Then the screen goes white. When the screen comes back, the brothers are in their room, where Mike is asking Steven to trade Mickey to him, so they can both finish their Pokédexes. The author is reluctant, but eventually says yes. During the trade, though, the game freezes, and he's forced to restart it. When the menu popped back up, he noted that there was no longer a Charizard, and he could only continue. When he clicked to continue, the words 1 year later popped up on the screen, and the game opened with Steven standing in front of a tombstone in Pokemon Tower. His sprite had changed from a confident young boy to a depressed one. His hair splayed in front of his face. Music played, but it wasn't the Pokemon Tower theme, and Steven no longer had anything on him. It appears that Mickey had died in the trade, and Steven had given up on everything.
How the heck do you die in
Leaving
a
the tower,
trade?
He was
Wait.
greeted by NPCs offering up their condolences. Heading back to Pallet Town, it seemed to be the same thing with the people he grew up with. Them offering up condolences, and their brother even apologizing for what happened. That night, Steven talks about doing it, which confuses the author, having no
Doing
idea
what?
it is. Going out into the water, the author encounters missing number, and catches it. But strangely enough, it isn't a Pokemon.
Missing number.
It is
It's
an item.
missing no.
He then proceeds to go back to Pokemon Tower, and stands above Mickey's grave, uses the item, and receives the Pokemon. The game then took away the author's control, leaving him unable to check what the Pokemon was. The music getting more and more distorted with each town he passed through, before eventually just sounding like demonic rumbling. When he made it to Pallet Town, he went directly to his room, and just stood in front of his brother's bed, making no more moves. It was so still that the author thought the game froze. Then the author proceeded to check his Pokemon trainer card again. He found that his name had been changed to some deformed version of Steven, and the sprite now bore a wide white grin. Trying to save the game, the words "nothing can be saved now" appeared, or a snap occurred, and the game shut itself off. Turning it back on, he was greeted by the same sight as when he originally opened the game. A trainer with a Charizard, and an overview of Pallet Town with Steven's house surrounded with grass. Clicking continue, the game just said no.
Zombrion. What?
Zombrion is the story of a guy who decided to try a beta version of Pokemon Gold on the Game Boy Color. The author had heard from a friend that there were supposed to be 2 more evolutions added to Eevee, in Pokemon Gold and Silver,
That would
but
be.
they were dropped from the game. The author, being unconvinced but very interested, decided to try the game by getting his hands on a beta version of Pokemon Gold. The first few he found didn't really work or were just normal.
Alright. Let's go out to find our next creepypasta game. Okay, hotkeys are not working. Okay. Alright, I think. Nah, this ain't it. Alright. Okay, I'm trying to find it. I'm trying to find a creepypasta game to play.